everyone, and welcome back to Paramount Sales, the series where I chat with the leaders of some of the most exciting and emerging B2B companies in the market today. Now, today, I have the privilege of being joined by Alan Thorpe, the founder of Three Valued Things. Alan, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Very good, Matt. Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolute pleasure to have you, mate. Absolute pleasure. So today is a little bit different, as I wanted to do an episode that's really specifically focused on, B2B growth and go-to-market strategies, and talk through some of the changes that have occurred over the last 5 years or so. And I thought, who better to discuss this with than you, Alan? So
I'll take your word for that, Matt.
So for those of you who may be unfamiliar with Alan's work, Alan is a vastly experienced and highly respected sales and growth consultant who's worked in sales and digital strategy now for a number of years and worked with some very big names in the industry. And I can certainly say for certain that I've learned a hell of a lot from him since I started Paramount Sales last year. So look, Alan, before we discuss, sales and we go into the nitty gritty, let's learn a little bit more about yourself. This is Paramount Profiles after all. So look, let's start with Three Valued Things. Do you want to give a brief overview of yourself and of the company, just for anyone who's maybe unfamiliar with what it is that you do?
Yeah, sure. So Three Valued Things is a B2B marketing and sales consultancy, primarily working with scale-up technology companies. And I suppose the reason I founded it is because I'd come across over my career in marketing so many companies being ripped off by cold callers, spammers, you name it. But what they were doing, they'd sort of whack out loads of emails to your database, ruin your brand profile in the process with things that were completely irrelevant, and send you chasing around the country after unqualified leads. And I thought, well, no, this is just not good enough, really, because in all my years of selling for data technology companies, often fitted within advertising and marketing networks, funnily enough. What I realized is it's all about relevance, and if you don't have that relevance, you're really wasting your time. And the other thing was that this notion these spammers have that you can just send something out and magically leads will land is it's nonsense. It's all about you've got to create that, you've got to give value before you take value, and you have to stay in mind for the long term, because the chances of you hitting someone just at that moment that they need what you're selling are frankly minuscule. So that's why I set up Three Valued Things. But that came off the back of a long career initially as a program manager in technology companies, and then working for in marketing and advertising for the likes of WPP, then as a European director of Axiom, the big data company. And then working for agencies that blended technology and marketing that were scaling up. But I suppose the thing that I always loved going through my career, when I look back at, you get to a certain age when you suddenly look at your career and you go, which bit do I really enjoy? And you suddenly go like, well, being an MD, I was shit at that. Because frankly, you end up doing a lot of HR stuff, whereas actually doing the work, I was very good at, very successful. And then I thought, well, what kind of companies do I enjoy working with? And it was always, in the technology land, I worked for a couple of tech companies that grew and sold out. And when I went and worked for an agency after Axiom again, it was owned by a VC and it needed to scale and sell out. And I came in and helped them there, get them into lots of different places. And it's the energy that goes with scale ups, where everybody has a very definite goal that really sort of turns me on, I suppose, and I find it terribly exciting. So that's why, B2B, but very specifically with companies that want to go somewhere, companies that aren't just going to be every October going, let's just add 10% to last year's budget. That's just not good enough anymore. It has to be fun. It has to have the energy. So that's who I am. That's what I do.
Excellent. No, I think it's fair to say we are in a similar space. So I think, as I said to you, as I said earlier, you post a lot of content. We've had plenty of conversations that we're really sort of on the same page, aren't we, when it comes to some of the strategies that companies need to put in. But let's let's just rewind this a little bit, because I'm always interested in how people go from full-time employment to whether it's a contract work or then starting up, because I've been in that boat. It's what I'm doing now. I'm self-employed, started a company. It's a big decision. So tell me about why you've said why you saw a gap on really what you wanted to do with Three Value Things. But tell me about the actual jump and said, right, actually, I can't work full time anymore. I don't want to work full time anymore. Working for yourself. Take me through that process.
Well, I think the first thing to say is I absolutely do want to work full time. And I do work full time. So it wasn't a case of not wanting to work full time or anything like that. It was more a case of wanting to get to the end of each day and feel that I'd added value for clients and feel that I'd helped move the dial. And I didn't feel I could do that anymore in the corporate world. There was, particularly once you're working in groups, there's always there's distractions, there's pressures. And then I sort of looked at the way the world was going, and I looked at my network, which is very extensive on LinkedIn, and the amount of people I'd see these open to work labels up all the time. And the instability in full-time employment is such that I thought to myself, well, if I've got, 3 or 4 clients and working with me and with I've got a lot of experts in my network who I sort of give work to, and I really should make a margin on it, but I don't get around to that. I think job security is much greater working for yourself than it is working full time for someone else, because you're in control. It's up to you, really. So I suppose yes, there's the initial leap, and I won't pretend that the first year wasn't a bit scary, and it didn't particularly help that little period when Liz Truss got in, when she ruined everybody's budgets. But I look at it over the last couple of years, and it's been wonderful, and it getting paid well, working pretty much full time with really interesting people who want to achieve a goal. I mean, what's better than that?
No, absolutely. Yeah, 100% agree with you. And I do think the people talk about the security of working in full-time employment over contracting. I agree with you. It's a bit of a myth, isn't it? And I think in a lot of cases. So, okay, great. So look, let's dive into the thing that we're supposed to be experts on now, which is the sort of sales and growth strategy. Now, this is an area, I think, more than any kind of discipline in the market, that's changed so much in the last 4 to 5 years, pretty much since lockdown. I think it's fair to say, whether that is, the rise of video conferencing over face-to-face, AI, automation, you name it. There've been so many changes, and in my opinion, a lot of it is certainly more negative than positive generally in some of the changes. So, look, Alan, obviously you've been in the game for longer than I have. So, in your view, what are some of the biggest changes in sort of the sales process or strategy you've seen in the past 4, 5, 6 years? And what's your sort of take on that, if they're positive or negative?
Well, it's if we look at B2B buyers, what's changed significantly is that people they expect to be able to find information. They expect to be able to self-direct rather more than be interrupted by someone in sales going, "Do you want one of these?" So there's a requirement for organizations to be constantly sharing value, highly relevant value, if they want to be part of conversations, because really most of the time I think most buyers have chosen who they're going to go with before they get in touch with you. So there's been quite a shift, I suppose, towards demand generation, where there's a lot more sharing of information, understanding what really matters to your audience in terms of their KPIs and the outcomes they want to achieve, and sharing highly relevant information with them, or making it very accessible to them. So that could be on LinkedIn, it could be on the website, it could be in email, it could be in a whole number of different places. But supplying that continual stream of relevant information is quite important. But the other thing that's changed, of course, is because buyers have become so self-directed, there's a flood of information. And so, you're suddenly going, oh no, how am I going to cut through all this noise? And there's lots of people who are quite scared about this. And it sort of go like, is content dead and all the rest of it. And especially in the AI age, where it's pretty obvious that you only have to look at the kind of crap you get sent on LinkedIn, that that people are using AI to generate an awful lot of noise. The other thing that's changed is that your brands have to be very distinctive and and really stand out. And I don't mean so much differentiated as distinctive. You have to be instantly able to recognize that brand, because if there's this huge stream of information, then someone seeing you has to know it's you. And that's why there's a tremendous opportunity for people who really are experts, for organizations that really are experts, to use the humans in their organization in distinctive ways to stand out. It's why I post little videos on blackboards, because it's authentic. No one can possibly question that you don't know what you're talking about. So cutting through, you've got to be really distinctive with your brand and stand out. And unfortunately, a lot of companies don't do that. They do the opposite. They look at their competitors and they do something very similar to their competitors and actually blend in, which is a disaster. And then there's that opportunity to really provide genuine insights and genuine expertise, and just do that regularly. And I do think then there's the opportunity to appeal to those buyers who are being much more self-directed.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think the self-directed side of thing now is huge, right? I think that so many people who I speak to don't want to speak to salespeople anymore. They really don't. They only want to, in some cases, depending on what industry you're in. So we'll just talk marketing tech at the moment. If you're in a marketing tech, if you're a buyer and you can go onto a website, if you can go onto reviews, if you can go onto LinkedIn, if you can see, first of all, that the founder or the CEO or the whoever of this company knows what they're talking about, and you can build that trust through, whether it's through demos, testimonials, or whatever it is, that is huge. And they are going to get, if you think about the traditional sales pipeline, from qualification, doing a demo, proposals, and all this kind of stuff, some marketers or some buyers just want to jump straight to the, right, okay, I'm ready to buy now. Now I'll speak to a salesman.
They've done the work. They've done the work already.
Absolutely. And it's one of the big things I tell people is that you have to get that, building that trust and building that kind of brand value, as you've just said, by being discoverable. I think that's sort of the key thing at the moment.
The problem with this, Matt, is of course the devil is in the detail, and actually you'd think, well, okay, fine, I'm going to whack a load of content here, whack a load of content there. It's not so simple, because most scale-up organizations don't have the capabilities to do these things, or if they were going to do it themselves, they'd probably need to hire someone who can do their email marketing, who can write their content, who can do their social, who can, the list is endless, to be honest. It gets very expensive. So, and the other problem I've often encountered is that people start selling the thing that their business sells rather than finding out why their audiences buy. So, correct. I have a very people say to me, come and help us with I want to sell more stuff. I say, well, that's fine, but I want to diagnose the problem before I prescribe the solution. Whereas the old sort of outbound lead generation agencies would say, well, here's our solution. No, so I want to interview the clients and ask them some questions. What are the key features that you see from this organization? What are the key benefits to you? What's distinctive about this organization's product or services versus competitors? If you had to sell this organization in 30 seconds, what would you say? Because it's amazing, the list of things that comes out invariably different to the things that the company's actually selling. What you end up from that are a load of social proofs, very powerful social proofs, because you think the biggest barrier B2B selling is risk, because people don't want to buy things that might screw up their career. So, that's why I prefer to buy from familiar brands. That's why I think the stats are something like 84% of B2B sales have some form of recommendation and referral at their root. So, collecting that social proof and selling the outcomes that people really want to achieve is just so important. I mean, I've got a client at the moment, and actually, the category norm for their sector is about cost savings, but actually the reason that people buy from them is because they describe as peace of mind, because they know that all these other things are ticked off and are not going to fall over, and this company is particularly good at it. So actually, a key sales message is we're really good at these things which de-risk it for you, and you get that peace of mind. Cost savings, side product, that's the, so it's it sounds simple enough, doesn't it? Just shove a load of stuff out there, but actually it's quite hard work, and it does need quite a clear strategy behind it.
It is. I think the real interesting point I think you brought up there is speaking to clients, right? Because I think when you and I when we go into B2B companies, the first thing you might do is you'll interview, say, the CEO, right, or the MD, and say, right, tell me why you win, right? Yes. What is it that clients? Why do you think clients buy from you? You then might ask, say, if it's a scale-up business that has a head of sales, you might go speak to head of sales, who will say something else. Head of marketing will say something else. But then you speak to the client, they might say something completely different.
Yeah.
And it's really the client in terms of, as you said, you should find out why people buy from you in the first place. You need to build on your strengths. And if you've got a client who's been with you for 4 or 5 years, they are such a great sort of social proof, as you say, in terms of what value is the company that you're providing. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people miss, because CEOs or founders of companies who may not be sort of commercially driven, there are guys out there who incredibly smart, make amazing products, but just don't have that commercial background, and they'll do exactly what you'd say. They will come in, they will sell a platform or a product. Our product does A, B, and C, and it can help you in X, Y, and Z way, but it doesn't actually really tell what the value is. And I think that example you gave is a really good one.
I think the other thing is actually then looking at the proposition that's being sold, and how do you actually get people started. I should explain actually 3 valued things really is that I believe that when you eventually get in front of a prospect, or and that could be virtually on the website or whatever it is, they should be something they can buy now to get them started. There'd be some kind of roadmap for the future, and ideally something they didn't know. So that you think when clients are making a decision to buy, particularly B2B, particularly in sort of technology space, what they're worried about is solving their problem right now, but also knowing that in 12 months time, 24 months time, 36 months time, that problem's not going to come back because your organization isn't always advancing for the future. So actually getting them started, knowing that there's a roadmap for the future, and that might well be the technology development roadmap, that might well be, the partnerships that are being formed or whatever it is, and then insights that can help them plan themselves and tell them something they didn't know, and that particularly if you're producing if you have a business that's some of the technology companies I work with, they manage a lot of data, and actually insights come out of that data. If you can inform clients and prospects about what's going on in their industry and their own particular audiences, and help them understand the people they're selling to, then again, that's very powerful, because you're constantly dripping that stuff through. So it becomes a very convincing story, those 3 things together. That's why it's 3 valued things, and I know that it's quite hard to achieve those 3 things, but it's also very powerful.
Absolutely, because I really do love your the name and 3 value things, and how that story sort of how that all sort of blends together. Just want to quickly talk about one of the big changes that we've seen in sales quite a lot is the rise of AI and automation in the sales cycle. Now, you've already mentioned that how much, I get stuff every single day. And it's mostly garbage, right? As soon as you have a title that's founder, like you'll get as well. I mean, you just get so much stuff get put through. But where, in your opinion, do you think AI or automation can benefit from a sales? Because I've got to the point now where it's more of a hindrance in a lot of cases than it is a help, certainly from an email perspective. But it'll be great to hear sort of your view on that.
So there's two very different things, really. Some of the automation, particularly in terms of being able to, there's the very simple stuff like setting up a series of posts on LinkedIn to be published on certain dates. That's fantastic, because it means you can plan a month ahead and you've got it all ready to go, and it saves you time. And then there's the sort of getting a little bit more complicated, the likes of HubSpot and some of the email tools, where you can set up a sequence. So if someone has responded a number of times, you might send them these other pieces of value or these other things, and that's very useful. There's the sort of tracking automation, which is massively valuable. So being able to see if someone opened an email, went to your website, or has come from a social feed, that's so important, because if someone's actually done something, then they're clearly a higher value lead than someone who's perhaps just opened something. So there's that sort of simple tracking automation type things. And then when we get into AI, for a scale up companies, some of the design tools are very, very useful for, we've all seen them, things like Canva. They're very useful because it makes it affordable for things to look good. And it is important that things look good. And even, the most famous one of all, ChatGPT, is very, very valuable if people are looking to research a topic that they want to write about. It's a really helpful research tool. Although half the time you do find that the sources, you click through to them, they don't exist, or there's something a bit dodgy about them. But it is, I don't think you can use it to write your material at all. I really don't. But it's verbose at the best of times. But it's these things are all useful research tools, and I would say use these tools, but you need to have a human in charge, making sure that there is a plan, and there's a plan which remains very, very focused on your target audiences. And there's a plan that keeps your brand messages intact, so that all of your business sings with one voice. So they're going to get better and better, these tools, aren't they? But it is definitely enabling smaller scale up businesses to do more for less. There's no doubt about that.
No, I completely agree with that. Especially, you mentioned things like Canva, to make things look professional is something that I use a lot. The background that we're seeing now, a lot of that's been built with Canva, and as well as my design team. So shout out to Glue, by the way, with all my branding, if they're watching. But in terms of the thing is that I have the biggest problem with is using it for sort of mass scale outreach. Now, I'm going to ask you what your biggest sort of pet peeve is at the moment in sales, but let me give you mine first, just so you have an idea where I'm going with this. So I've spoken to a number of, email marketing agencies saying they'll get hundreds and thousands of emails out there over the course of the day. The biggest thing that always annoys me is if they say, oh, it's all a numbers game. Sales is just a numbers game. If we send out 10,000 emails, we can get you 10 leads because you'll get an open rate of 1% or whatever, right? Now, that really, really annoys me, because all you're doing like that, you're treating potential customers as nothing more than numbers. And you're actually saying that, okay, well, you may have got 10 leads out of it, but if you've sent thousands of emails, you've actually potentially turned off thousands of customers. But you're okay. I agree. Purely on that. You only focus purely on the leads that you get that might not be great anyway. They might not come in. You potentially lost a lot of business in the first place by people thinking that you're now more than spam. And it's just the phrase of sales is just a numbers game. It's not. For me, sales is still a people's game, right? The one issue I have, again, with this, going back to this, video conferencing, which is ironic because we're recording this video today, is that sales seems to be coming in certain places a lot more transactional rather than a people business. So I don't know what your sort of thoughts are on that, or kind of what is your main sort of bugbear or sort of pet peeve at the moment in the marketplace?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, I get those. I mean, given the business I'm in, I think it's quite funny when people send me stuff trying to tell me they're going to sell more from me. But you know, the lack of relevance is the thing that's really quite insulting, because that says that, you know, people haven't spent the time to understand the outcomes of the audiences that they're trying to sell to, and why these things matter. So I think email is an incredibly valuable tool. In fact, I've had a client in the last year that's a technology company, a cybersecurity company, that's been getting 50% open rates and 20% click-through rates on cold mail, which are extraordinary. But you know, the email is based on interviews with clients, understanding what their problems are, and solving the problems that matter to them, because they can only buy if you're solving a problem that's in their KPIs and that's in their budget. So it's that level of relevance which is really important. So people who just chuck stuff out the door, the leads you get are going to be really poor quality anyway. So it's a waste of money, and that's really is, you know, we're back to where we started. Really, my mission is to destroy these people, because to be honest, they're bastards. What they're doing is they are ripping off the desperate. They're ripping off people, or the unwary. You know, they're ripping off businesses that need some sales without helping the business to get in shape to be successful, and that is just the worst. Because, you know, it's a short-term deal where they take the money, and the business is the business is worse off at the end of it, because they've spent the money, but they aren't better off in terms of where they are to go forward. So I'm kind of with you, really, that, you know, I'm really that people using this technology just to do volume stuff. No. You know, that's just not how it works.
Yeah, fully agree with you. So let's keep this sort of final questions a bit sort of simple now. So you go into a brand new client of yours, scale up. They've engaged with you to help with their sort of growth strategy. What's the sort of the first thing that you sort of recommend to them? The biggest thing you go in straight away. So look, here's the main recommendation.
Well, the first thing is I say, well, we have to diagnose the problem and understand what it is. Because normally someone will come to me and say, I want to sell more of X. And you go, well, that's fine, but let's understand what the problems that solves for your clients. That's some client interviews. How you look compared with your competitors. So what are they saying? What's different about you? What's you know, how are we going to go up against them? Let's look at your marketing now to understand the story it's telling and see the difference between what your clients are saying and what you're saying at the moment. Let's look at the markets you're addressing. Do they have the scale in them that is going to achieve the numbers that you want to achieve? You know, let's look at your current performance. How long is it taking to to go from nothing to a sale? So do we know those numbers? If we don't know those things, we need to start tracking them, because, you know, typically I'm seeing perhaps it's 8 to 10 contacts of some sort before someone gets in touch, and then perhaps 20 or 30 bits of discussion that are going on, if you look at it through HubSpot, whatever you're using, before something turns into a sale. So the process of diagnosis, of really understanding where a business is now, you know, and that goes further, by the way, what skills are in the business, you know, because you might have a brilliant marketer, or you may not have a brilliant marketer. You might have a great website, you might not have a great website. You might have a database, you might not have a database. You know, all these things, that gives us a starting position. And then from that, you can build a realistic plan to achieve what someone wants to achieve. And you can go back to people and say, well, okay, realistically, if you want to achieve this goal, these are the things you're going to need to do, and this is the sort of budget you're going to need to actually achieve those things. Alternatively, you know, we might change the plan at that point and say, well, actually, you know, if we could change the plan slightly and focus on this smaller audience over here and still achieve, I don't know, 3/5 of what you want to achieve, So that the first thing is always not to jump to the answer, but to truly understand the market and the business's position and its goals and its budgets, and bring those things together and its people, and then understand what it is that is the right solution for that particular business to achieve the goals that it wants to achieve.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Alan. Couldn't agree more. Right, let's sort of wrap this up with a little bit more information, obviously about you, Alan. Right. So, what does downtime, Alan Thorpe, look like? Yeah. What do you do once the laptop goes down and the 3 Value thing T-shirt comes off and you can?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, my lifelong passion has been sport. So I rowed and sculled for 25 years. I was captain of Reading Rowing Club. But then maybe 10 years or so, like so many men of my age, I got into road cycling, and which it becomes very addictive because there's always a lot of cake, there's always a lot of cafes, and there's always a lot of chat. So, I've been doing quite a few long distance events, 100-mile events and this sort of stuff. But to be honest, my range of hobbies is quite wide. I've got a nasty habit of buying old British sports cars for not very much money on eBay, and then restoring them to sort of factory condition. And
nice.
It's very therapeutic when you spend your time at a keyboard to then go and do some welding. It's a nice thing. So my outside of work activities, apart from I've got 2 children at university. 2 children, I can't call them that children. Adults at university. And obviously, my wife likes to see me as well sometimes. My outside of work activities tend to be quite physical, because it's just such a contrast to, and it deploys the brain in a completely different way. But sitting still doing nothing, sitting on a beach is hell on earth to me. But so I'm always busy, but just doing different things.
Absolutely, that sounds great. So look, I think that should just about do it for today. So look, Alan, again, huge thank you for spending time with me today. And look, like I said, I've personally learned a lot from you since I've started Paramount Sales. So I can.
That's kind of you to say that.
Yeah, no, I can hopefully continue to do so as well. I think you're a great resource. I think for any. Well, first of all, any B2B company looking to grow, and also someone in the sort of the sales, anyone in the sales industry, if you will. So looking to learn more about the Beta-Do, make sure you follow Alan and 3 Value Things on LinkedIn. He's a fantastic resource. So look, thank you to everyone else for watching or listening to this episode of Paramount Profiles 2. If you like and you watch this on YouTube, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll make sure I'll put our contact details down below if you want any more information on Alan and 3 Value Things, or even myself and Paramount Sales. So for now, again, Alan, cheers, and speak to everyone soon.
Lovely. Thanks, Matt. Good to see you. Bye.
Cheers.